My name is Leah, or Leviathan, as I'm known as on social media. I am a streamer and a presenter, and I do a lot of live streaming, presenting, hosting, a bit of everything really, and just delving into the world of voice acting too. Oh no, these are the worst questions. My mind goes completely blank. Generically pizza, I guess I'd say. No, ramen. I love ramen. Ramen, we'll go with that. Yeah. Because it's like best game ever played versus favorite game. I feel like they're slightly different. I don't know. Because my favorite game is Final Fantasy VII. But every time I think of the best game I ever played, I always think of Nier Replicant. Because it's just so good. So, yeah. It'd be between those two. Well, I guess one answer for me would be Smite. Because I actually really like Smite as a game, but it made me into a terrible person. Like the competitive side of Smite and everybody, the community just, it made me very toxic. So I guess that's probably a good answer. If it was like you would be guaranteed to go, I would selfishly choose like Japan or somewhere just so I'd have the excuse to go there. I don't know, really. That's an interesting one. There's so many interesting places. But most of the time when you held an esports event, you're like in the arena the whole time. You don't get to see any of the culture outside of it. So it could be in your back garden and it wouldn't make any difference, really. But maybe somewhere like central, more France or something like that, or London, so I could easily get there. Very nice. It's gotta be PC for me, definitely. Yeah, I used to be an Xbox only girl. I didn't used to have a PC, but over the years I've become a PC gamer, and I don't think I could look back. I think my joke answer would be Kirby, just because imagine how much fun it would be. You just experience everything by like absorbing it, which is how I experience most of the world anyway. Just eat everything. 8 years ago now, I started streaming on Twitch, and yeah, it was just a little bit of fun, really. Just thought it'd be quite enjoyable to hop on and maybe like get a group of people together who enjoy laughing at whatever I'm currently doing, and it really blew up from there very, very quickly to the point where I by the next year, like I was just sustaining everything entirely. I mean, it wasn't even a year, it was like a few months. My whole income was just streaming from that point, and it was wild. And since then I've just had the fortune to access like every single corner of the gaming industry, really. It's been really cool. I've worked with various different brands in the esports world, like Fordzilla and Excel. I've been to a fair few esports events. Like I was very lucky to go to and watch the Overwatch League live in LA at one point, which is really awesome. And I've just like been able to experience the esports world in like lots of different capacities for lots of different games, and it's really, really cool because you get a taste for every community and every facet of it, really, and you get to really see how many different varieties of gamers there are out there. But I've just been a variety streamer for as long as I know. I've always been a competitive sort of person. Like my start into modern gaming was with Halo 3 and Modern Warfare, and I was very obsessed with just playing always and like getting better and being better all the time. So it's really fun. I love trying out all the new competitive games, even if I don't put the hours in at this point to be any good at any of them, but I still enjoy playing them and then beating myself up for not being good enough. I think the thing with gaming and then esports in particular is that there's always drive and motivation to be better and to keep going and to evolve and see what the next big thing is going to be, and that's really enticing. Like I'm somebody who loves trying new things, and I love ever evolving work. Like I don't like sticking to one thing. I get bored very easily. So I think with that, the esports world is really nice because there's always something exciting going on. So I've known for a long time that gaming is what I love. It's got this like intersection of competition, art, passion, like incredible artistry and experiences all brought into one thing, and it means something different for everybody. And I think that's really cool. There's not many creative endeavors that really hit all the notes that gaming hits. So an esports is just an extension of that. Like the passion that is involved in the esports community is unrivaled, in my opinion. Ooh. I have an NPC in a game. I'm in Dying Light 2. I have an NPC character that talks to you if you go and talk to them. So that's pretty cool. I'd say that's a pretty big achievement for me, like to be in a game. But that's the end goal, right? If you like start in the gaming industry as someone who just plays games and you're like, I love games, and then to be in a game eventually is very, very, very cool. I come at it from a slightly different angle, but I'd love to be in a game like Valorant or whatever. As I say, I'm pursuing voiceover and stuff like that. So my goal would be to be in a game and like be part of the community in that respect. I love playing Valorant. I play a lot of it. So to be part of that experience for other gamers to experience is a very, very cool opportunity. So I think that's where I want to be. It's really cool because every single person who's part of the committee is they're coming from a very different background within gaming, and everyone's got very different past experience with gaming as well. So it's really interesting because everyone's got a really different perspective and experience, and that means that there's like I hate using the word diversity because I think it's like thrown around so much, and people associate this like really negative association with it sometimes. But like it's a really important word, you know, like that diversity of opinion and experience is necessary when you're trying to find out ways to make gaming appealing and interesting to anybody who might feel pushed out of it. And I think the fact that we have so many different people who are so passionate and have so many different ideas of how to encourage people that like you can get into gaming and you will enjoy it, and there are so many different avenues for you to enjoy gaming. I think that's really necessary. So when it comes to representation, I think we are getting there. I think in terms of in-games, I think we are very well represented at this point. We have an incredible amount of really awesome women characters in games, and I don't see that changing anytime soon, and I think that's really, really cool. Within esports itself, in terms of like a competitive level, I think there's still obviously work to be done, and I think like I've always said, it's a long time thing. Like you can present as many opportunities as you want for women to step up and be part of a competitive scene. And the argument is always, well, women just aren't good enough, and that's why they don't compete. And it always comes back to the fact that like there's certainly it takes a long time for women to feel comfortable enough to put themselves out there in a space that is often hostile feeling. And it does get better, but the more fuss you make about it, the more people push back against you. So it's very difficult to break through that. But also like that, years of experience of just playing and reactions building up and being good at that kind of game. It doesn't just come out of nowhere. It does take time for that to build. And often you'll find a lot of the guys in esports, with the rare exception of people who've been gaming for years, since they were like 7 years old with a mouse and keyboard, you know, they've put a long, long, long time into practicing those skills. And I think it does take time for other like marginalized communities to have the opportunities to then grow with that, and for it to just be a natural part of their daytime and a natural part of their hobbies, so that they do eventually feel confident enough to compete. But I think making sure that we are continuing to present people with opportunities, even if they aren't taken up, is the most important thing, so that people are reminded, like, if you want it, it's there. Like, if you want to compete, like, there's an opportunity for you. And as much as people really rail on like women-only tournaments and stuff, it's a really important jumping point to show that like you can compete, and you don't have to be like the best of the best. You don't have to feel like the best of the best to compete and get a feel for the competitive scene in general. Because a lot of women will not want to play ranked game modes, and they will be put off playing competitive settings because of experiences you've had. And it blows my mind that people still try and deny that happens, when I think every single woman who's played any sort of competitive game has had the exact same experiences. But yeah, creating those spaces for them to just dip their toes in is like really important and necessary to then open up a wider world of esports. Yeah, so like I said, female-only tournaments really allow for people who would never have tried a competitive side of gaming to like dip their toes in a space where it feels a little bit less hostile, I think. Even if it isn't a hostile experience in esports, even if, you know, you want to argue that like it's fine, women are completely accepted and open, it's about your perspective, right? And it can feel hostile sometimes, if not all the time, to be quite frank. So having those experiences where like you can say, here's a competitive setting where you're going to feel a little bit more comfortable because you're not having to worry about this whole other element of people being awful to you for other reasons. It's just about the games. And if it is just about being competitive within the games, and if players in like a women-only tournament are toxic to each other, it doesn't have that added element of being toxic because you're a woman. And I think that is like actually as much as you might want to dismiss it, it's a pretty big deal to remove that entire element from it, and for it to just be about, you know, gaming is always going to be a little bit toxic. There's always going to be a bit of banter and stuff. That's just how it is. And, you know, as long as it's not going too far, I think that's completely natural for a competitive setting. As long as it doesn't go into that angle of sexism. So having those tournaments that are women only is awesome, because it means that you just get to compete and experience that competitive world without like having that other cloud hanging over your head. And then if once you have that confidence, then you feel capable and able to you know, move into other spaces that maybe don't have those gender limitations. Sure, I feel like we are going the right direction. There's like a really good amount of representation of women. You can see there's a lot of effort being made by companies and women analysts and you know, hosts and cast members and stuff like that outside of just players. And I think it's mostly just a case of encouraging grassroots level esports organizations to let people feel comfortable playing with their friends in competitive settings, to then feel comfortable moving on from that and you know, moving into teams and more organized, sponsored structures for a team. So yeah, starting right from the bottom, I think, is the most important thing you can do. And I think we just need to keep making sure there's more of that, and making sure that like it's promoted. Like I think there are a lot of grassroots initiatives, but like as somebody who has an audience I can promote things to, I don't know about any of them. And it'd be really nice to, it's not an easy thing. It's the hardest thing in the world to like get information out there sometimes, but finding ways to disseminate that information more and make more people aware of those opportunities is, I think, the thing we should be doing now. Well, my issue was always barrier to entry in terms of equipment. I couldn't afford a PC. And I had an Xbox, but my internet connection was terrible. So like the barrier for entry for me was always just equipment-based money. I just couldn't afford anything that would even let me consider being competitive in any capacity. So I think there's also like small town, I don't want to give it a name. I want to say small town syndrome, but that's probably already a thing. But like, you know, coming from a small town and you're like, oh, these opportunities aren't available to me, therefore other people. So I think that's another barrier as well, where it's, if you don't have that around you at that age, you're not going to engage with it. And, you know, I'm 30 now. When I was growing up, when I was like, you know, 13, 14 or whatever, like getting into these competitive games, it wasn't really, gaming just wasn't talked about in schools, like it was a nuisance. And I think that's different these days. You see a lot of school esports communities and stuff like that coming up and encouraging kids, and it's just a lot more normalized now. So it's very cool to see. For me, it just means, I don't know if we're using terms like safe space and stuff like that, because it's not really what it shouldn't be a safe space per se, but it is more just making sure there's opportunity for anyone to do whatever. For me, it's another stepping stone on the route of just letting people explore their passions, letting people explore their skills, and allowing people to have the opportunity to figure out what those skills and passions are. Because, you know, it's like when you go to university at the age of 18 and you don't know what your skills and passions are necessarily. You don't have a clue. It's the only, for me at least, like it took to get into my late 20s to realize what I enjoyed doing and what I was good at doing and who I am as a person. And I think like women in esports as an overall idea is more of, to me, about providing those opportunities, providing most people with an opportunity to learn about themselves and learn about what they enjoy and learn about what they're good at. And if that means that there's more women in esports tournaments, awesome. If it means that there isn't, because you know, there's just a natural disinclination towards that, then that's fine too, because it's just about making sure there's an opportunity there.